Welcome to episode 244 of the Ages Podcast. My name is David Stewart. I'm here with my brilliant co-host, Margaret May, senior editor of Ageist magazine.
Hey everyone. This week's guest is Dr. Edythe Heus, founder of Rev6. She's not just a chiropractor or a movement expert. She's something more like a fascia whisperer.
Our generation wants to stay active. Let's feel like badasses for the rest of our life. I want us all to be able to jump. I say, I want to be able to jump into my grave.
Dr. Heus is really a gem. She's worked with pro athletes. She's helped extend their careers by a decade. She's worked wonders with regular people like me. And today she's giving us a fresh take on what true vitality looks like at any age.
And after that conversation, we'll dive into 3 wellness trends making waves this summer, from antioxidant-loaded drinks to nature-infused nuptials, and an interesting, really big wellness forecast trend.
Can't wait for that. All that and more coming up after a quick word from our sponsors. I had major knee surgery. I'm focused on healing myself. MitoPure from Timeline is helping me do just that, supporting my mitochondria for better energy and strength. Now in a zero-sugar strawberry gummy. Yum. Get 20% off. That's 20% off at timelinenutrition.com with code AGEIST, AGEIST.
If you know me, you know I don't do filler snacks. I need something that works as hard as me. David Protein Bars deliver 28 grams of protein, 150 calories, and 0 sugar. There's no crash, just clean fuel that actually tastes good. Made with egg white, collagen, whey, and milk protein, my favorite flavors are cinnamon roll, chocolate chip cookie dough, and salted peanut butter. Buy 4 boxes, get the 5th free at the link in our show notes today.
Really quick, I want to give a shout out to Element, the zero sugar electrolyte drink mix that's become part of my daily ritual. Whether I'm working out or just powering through the day, it keeps me feeling sharp and hydrated. Try it for yourself. Go to drinkelement.com/ageist and get a free 8-serving sample pack with any purchase. That's drinkelement.com/ageist. Thanks for tuning in this week. Let's give Dr. Edythe Heus a call. We're going to learn all about fascia. I'm very pleased to have one of the professionals that I rely on here, Dr. Edythe Heus. I know her background is a chiropractor. She studied kinesiology, and she's really spent a lifetime studying muscles and movement and how all these things work together. Edythe, welcome.
Thank you, David. I'm so happy to be here and be here with you.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about, so if you're working with an elite athlete, they're good at moving in a certain way, how do you work with somebody like that?
So it's very easy for me to find the needle in the haystack that's interfering with them optimizing their performance. And this something that I hear on such a regular basis, because athletes come to you when they're injured, it's like, gosh, I wish I would have known you sooner. Because one of my many goals is to transform athletics so that our athletes can play longer, so that there's so much that is gained from the games other than just, let's take baseball and home runs. I love, sports being more of a chess game. And there's not that opportunity because we retire our athletes too early because of injury. It's like, oh, there's always plenty of people coming up behind them. And I had the opportunity to work with professional baseball player Stephen Finley. And we met when he was 33 and he played until he was over 42. He ran his shoulder into a wall, and that's what took him out of the game. But the joy he had in playing that long, so many athletes that feel so unfulfilled because they feel like they were cut out of the thing that they loved too soon. So I can see just slight aberrations. You can have athletes that are just fantastic at performance, but I can look at them and say, dang, I wish I could get my hands on them because they could even be better.
So for regular people who you work with, like non-elite athletes, how would you describe what you do, Revolution in Motion? Someone who hasn't seen this before.
So I would describe it as working on unstable surfaces. So the gymnastics ball is pretty much your teammate through all of the exercises. And it's not just any ball, it's got to be the right size, texture, tone, because it creates instability, but there's also this relationship between the texture of the ball to activate the neurology in the fascia right underneath your skin, even though you're wearing clothes. So that's an important component of it. Everything looks easy, as it should, because when you're organized, there's just this flow that happens. And everything's done barefooted almost except for slide board or jump soles. And it works from the concept of the appreciation that the fascia is a continuous web. And all of your old injuries have made an imprint on the fascia, so then the communication is not optimal. So when you describe that Gumby feeling, we're going for organization of the fascia so that you get this lengthening and this rebound. The rebound is really important because the precision in that lengthening and rebound translates into power, explosiveness, quickness, reaction time, and it's not just professional athletes that want and need that. Our life depends on us being able to get out of the way of something that's going to injure us, or recovery from like falling down 2 steps or something like that. So your ability to recover from all injury and accidents is improved when you do Rev 6. Does that answer that
Yeah.
adequately? Okay.
It's somewhat hard to describe unless you've seen and experienced it. And I will say, you recommended a ball. I think I have a 60 centimeter bright green ball. It took me a while to make friends with the ball and to get it inflated properly. And then once you do, you're right. You have a relationship with the ball, which
Yeah.
sounds kind of odd, but yeah, exactly.
Well, you actually have a 75-centimeter ball.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You're a tall guy. I know that when I had the studios in New York and California, that people got really attached to which was their ball. They got
Yeah,
very possessive of it. So it's
right.
good to own your own.
What's different about, say, if someone were to, we'll just take like Pilates.
Okay.
So what's the difference between Rev 6 and Pilates?
So I did Pilates for 8 years. I was in the first studio in New York that allowed non-dancers in it. And I thought this was going to be the exercise modality that I could refer my patients to, because I was always looking for some movement system, some exercise system that would build on the treatment that we did and prevent them from needing to come as often. And so what I was seeing with Pilates is it's not unstable. It doesn't work as many planes. It's not as multiplanar as I needed to meet the requirements that patients' bodies were telling me they needed. And the powerhouse, the belly button for me is not the core. It's not the powerhouse center. And I describe the difference. So for me, the center that we move from is 3 fingered thicknesses from the top of your pubic bone. That's where you hollow from. It also happens to coincide with a very important muscle that called the pyramidalis, 2 of them that anchor this fascial strip down the middle that actually controls all of your abdominal muscles. So I'm big on small muscles. Rev 6 is all about small muscles serving as megaphones for the larger muscles. So that not only the pyramidalis muscle, but there's a very intelligent and beautiful fascial organization in the lower abs at the pubic bone area. So when you draw in, meaning that just imagine that your spine is pulling that lower abdominal area towards it, that's going to make you automatically lift, your head to be directed up, your back to relax, your chest to open up, and your pelvic floor to connect with your lower abs and your spine. So it's the connector point. And I had to develop a way of teaching people to see what I see and also to implement tools for them to always keep in mind. It's like, notice what you're noticing, and these are check-in points. And for athletes, it's really important because they have so many things to keep track of when, say, baseball, they're on, up at home plate to hit. To give them one area, one of those six essentials that turns them all on because they are all interconnected, is very empowering, relaxing, helps them get into a state of flow. So that area is not accessible. That connectedness does not happen at the belly button. When you hollow from the lower abs, as I describe it, everything lifts up. When you use the belly button, it's going to draw you forward, puts you more into the fetal position. So that's very different. Yeah, I think that the key is instability is not built into Pilates, although now they're doing Pilates on the ball. The sequencing is different than I sequence things because for 20 years I worked with a lot of neurologically compromised people. And through muscle testing, I saw how the body went from illness to wellness. So I saw these patterns. And then I applied those patterns to exercises and sequencing those exercises. And there are certain basic sequences. So Pilates is based on, sequences. I just have different sequencing based on my clinical experience. So Joseph Pilates trained dancers, and dance is different than everyday life. So mine is getting information from non-dancers, but those patterns apply to athletes of all abilities and all sports.
What would you say, Dr. Edythe, is some of the misconceptions that maybe people over 50 have about movement and fitness?
Oh, I love that question. Having had studios in New York, people would be disappointed because they thought, okay, when I work out, a good exercise means I'm sweating and I'm sore afterwards. And that's a misconception. I understand wanting to do that, and I'm not discouraging that, but that's not how you build your fitness. That's not how you build your wellness. That's not how you get organized in a way that then you can do all of these things better. So I like to think of Rev 6 as a foundation that allows you to do everything that you love to do better, because there are a lot of things in fitness that people are doing that are damaging if you don't have a really good organized communicating system in the first place. And most people that come to me that are high performers in CrossFit, even Pilates, weight training, I have to help them integrate because so many things are segmental. They just work out a certain area. The way the fascia works is it's sequential, all right? So it's a huge difference in how we perform because I've worked my way through bodybuilding, weightlifting, every kind of exercise possible, looking for an answer before I just like up and left New York and moved to Southern California and developed the exercise system that I have now.
Edythe truly is the master of all things fascia. And we'll get back to this conversation after a brief word from our sponsors. Today's show is also brought to you by Timeline. I want to talk to you about something that could change the way you think about aging and cellular health. We've all heard the phrase mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. But what does that really mean to us as we get older? Well, it turns out quite a lot. Mitochondria don't just produce energy, they are central to muscle strength, vitality, and how we age overall. By the time we hit our 30s, these little powerhouses start to decline. No good. Less energy, slower recovery, aging that you can feel. Yeah, we know what that's like. And I'll tell you, coming off of major knee surgery, I've never been more aware of just how important recovery and strength really are. That's why I've been taking MitoPure. It's a scientifically backed formula that supports mitochondrial health, helping increase muscle strength and energy in as little as 2 months. No extra workouts needed, just real cellular level support. And now, get this, it comes in a zero sugar strawberry gummy. Yum. Same science, same power, now easier to take every day. If you're thinking about trying Timeline, this is your sign. We're offering our listeners 20% off. That's 20% off your first purchase. Just use code AGEIST at checkout at timelinenutrition.com. That's AGEIST, 20% off. More strength, more energy from the inside out.
You know, I've always believed that what we eat, especially when we're on the go, can either push us forward or hold us back. And as someone who's constantly moving between travel, work, and workouts, I need snacks that actually do something, not just filler. That's why I'm a huge fan of David protein bars. These aren't your average protein bars pretending to be healthy. Each one packs 28 grams of protein, 150 calories, and 0 grams of sugar. That's right, zero. Built on the real science of satiety and energy, milk protein, egg white, collagen, whey, all blended to deliver a complete amino acid profile. It's like a little powerhouse in your pocket. No crash, no sugar spike, no regret. And the best part, they taste great. My favorites being the cinnamon roll, chocolate chip cookie dough, and salted peanut butter. These are bars made for people like us who care about how we feel after we eat, not just during. To be honest, I was eating these daily before David Protein ever reached out to partner. That's how much I believe in them. If you want to snack smarter, fuel better, and take one small step toward the life you're aiming for, this is a great place to start. Get to the link in our show notes. When you buy 4 boxes, you get the 5th free. That's a good deal for something that actually makes you feel good.
You said that Revolution in Motion is on the cusp of changing what we know about movement. Where do you see the future of fitness and health going in the next 10 years?
So I'm happy that, I'm within the demographic. Our generation wants to stay active. We don't want to give up the things that we love doing because usually most of the time the generation ahead of us, that's age and okay, I'll never be able to do that again. We're not that generation. We are willing to put the time into it. We're understanding that, a lot of these things just make sense. The more we now know about the fascia, which we didn't even, I've studied fascia for nearly 50 years, and it never answered all of my questions until more recently. The Stecos have a fascial manipulation. They've done more research. The way they see fascia, it completely aligns with how I see movement. So now that fascia is in the news a lot. So we're starting to understand that, but I still don't think that people recognize the potency, how it's almost like its own nervous system and brain. You have to think about the fascia as the synapse between the nerve and the muscle. And since the fascia is interconnected and every single cell is surrounded by fascia, there's not a system that's more integrated. So the more we understand about fascia, the more people are doing really good fascial exercise. And I'm always looking at what's going on. I think that I have an edge on it because I've been doing this for 50 years and I have hands-on experience as well as movement experience. So as we understand the fascia, our expectations of our body, like our expectations will meet what's possible.
Hmm.
Because sometimes we envision envision the body we want, and now we can have that and it can perform for us. So instability, barefootedness, proper sequencing, making sure that things are novel and interesting. And you will sweat, but it's sweating from like the inside. I have professional athletes that will be doing an exercise and they'll just be dripping, but it doesn't look like they're expending that much energy and it looks graceful. But doesn't all good sport look graceful? Doesn't all performance that's done beautifully look graceful? So grace is an important part of movement.
You mentioned fascia is around every cell. It's the connector between the nervous system and the muscle. What is fascia?
So fascia is a connective tissue that surrounds every cell. So it's connected to every cell. You can see that glistening substance on the outside of, say, a tenderloin. But within that tenderloin, like if you cut it, it falls into muscle bundles and then muscle fibers. Each muscle fiber is a cell surrounded by fascia, and then the bundles, fascia, then around the muscle. And between all the layers of fascia, including between muscle and muscle, is this substance called hyaluronic acid, and it's a glidy substance. But it becomes sticky and it becomes thick and densified with inflammation, injury, overuse, and then things stop gliding. So when you stop gliding in one area, areas above and below are going to try and make up for that glide because we desire that ease, that lengthening and, rebounding. So it's going to seek it in any way it can, but eventually where you get that added mobility, then that starts getting friction and getting thick again. So we end up being really bound up. And the longer we stay bound, the more limitations we're going to have
Yeah.
in our performance. But it goes deeper than that because there are nerves, blood vessels, lymph vessels that run through the layers of fascia that add to, not only circulation and detoxing, but also neurology, knowing where we are in space, knowing where our body parts are in relation to each other and in relation to our external environment. So having the fascia refined and it can be remodeled either manually or it can be remodeled with the right kind of exercise. So that's where, the right kind of exercise is done in the right way, also multiplanar become really important. So that's an important element of an appropriate and successful exercise system.
Help me out with this, Edith. So when I'm on the ball and we'll do something like I'm on my side and I've maybe got a little weight in my right hand and maybe got some
Yep.
weighted thing in my left foot. So there's a connection all like through the entirety of my body.
Right.
So that's not muscle, that's
Fascia.
fascia, that's the springy thing that goes from end to end, the whole thing.
Right. So they're like the one exercise where you're on your side, so it's a frontal plane movement. You're on your side holding a bell overhead, you're stabilized with your feet. I want people to feel it from their pinky toe to their pinky finger.
Right.
And that tension all moves the same, like it and you toss down and let it rebound up,
Yeah.
so there's this effortlessness.
That's exactly the feeling. There's this springy thing that happens.
That's the design of the fascia. We have collagen or protein fibers and we have elastic fibers. And you want those for strength and mobility.
And you mentioned earlier that you worked with some people who were neurologically challenged.
Mhm.
What's the intersection there of neurology with the fascia?
Because the peripheral nerves, those are the nerves that go out of the spinal cord, are wrapped with fascia, their function is dependent upon the fascia. Then the tissues around the central nervous system, the brain, and the spinal cord also have fascia around them. So there's that continuity. But if you just think about all of these nerve endings and nerve cells that are distributed in joints, in muscles, it's in the fascia more than actually the joints themselves and the muscles. Your brain gets a really clear sense of where you are in space, but like in so much detail. And that's
Mm.
important for your brain mapping. So we have our body parts represented in our brain as far as real estate goes. So, David, like your knee, you've had a change in the real estate in your brain representing your left knee. So that's not going to change until the knee sends new information. There's an override that the fascia is just so powerful at doing. And there were so many things neurologically, really from the time that I started in practice. I got people with MS with just unusual neurological conditions. And the thing that was different about me is I would say, I don't know if I can help you, but I'm willing to try, which is more hope than they had been given from their doctors who just wanted to put them on medication and say, well, just go get your life in order. So I learned so much from seeing them go, make progress. Like I've had a lot of success with MS, which has been
Mm.
really thrilling and rewarding. But they taught me a lot about what goes into the nervous system and how the body wants to be treated. So then that applies to athletics. And I remember working with athletes 27 years ago, putting them on unstable surfaces. It was just when I began developing Rev 6. And I'm like, there's something other than the nervous system that's going on here because the response was so quick. And the nervous system is a little bit slower. And then when I knew about the fascia is like a mechanical system that, like, if you think every cell is connected, as one cell dies and shrinks, everything else takes up that. And as one cell divides, everything else responds to that. So look how quick that is. And so that when you apply that property of the fascia to performance and just everyday life, we're so protected with the quickness with which we can respond to our external environment.
Mm.
And then there's the whole visceral part of it because fascia is around the organs.
Oh,
So,
of course. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Edythe, is there anything you want to leave my audience with? I feel like I talk a lot about it's not too late. And when we did our first class, maybe it was a year or so ago, it was just this astonishing feeling. Like I haven't felt springy like that in a long time. And it was just marvelous. Is there anything you want to tell my people out there?
Yeah. So I had the opportunity 7 years ago to create a program for senior living facilities. So I have a program called Vitality, and it's a seated version. They sit on a cushion, they've got their feet on a wobble board, but some of the moves are very similar. And I thought when I did the pilot program, okay, how long is this going to take? Because this was, I was 60, and I did click that I'm not that far off from the people that I was gonna be teaching, and I'm like, "Ah, that's just not my those aren't my avatars," you know? And then I thought about it, and, like, within, like, 2 hours, I had the whole program created, did the pilot program, and I was shocked at how fast they responded. I mean, it was like within weeks, 2 people, their walker had to be increased by 3 inches, the arms on them. And the two people also said, I went to set a glass down on my end table and I missed and I caught the glass. Brown University is doing a research on vitality. And they interviewed one guy and he said, it's the first time I felt like a badass in a long time. Isn't that a great thing to give somebody? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, let's feel like badasses for the rest of our life. And the fascia it can be remodeled. And at any age, just you have to do the right thing.
Dr. Edith, it's such a joy. Whenever I speak with you, I don't even have to do the exercises and I feel lighter. It's such a joy to have gotten to know you and, to have you back on the show. My message to everyone who's listening out there, we talk a lot about lifting weights and VO2 max, but there's like something else here that most of us are not picking up on that I think is really important. You use the word vitality, and that's very much my experience of doing Rev 6 with you.
Thank you, David. Well, I want us all to be able to jump for the rest of our lives. And I say, I want to be able to jump into my grave. So
That's right. That's a good goal. Dr. Edith, wonderful to have you on. We will put the links in the show notes. Rev 6, I am a huge fan. Get your ball, inflate the thing, make friends with your ball, and you will feel 20 years younger doing these exercises, I can tell you.
great. Thank you. And I'd love to give your listeners a promo code?
Oh,
And
yeah, sure.
will you include that with
Sure.
the links?
Absolutely. Love to.
Okay.
My
Great.
pleasure.
I'd love to have them join. Thank you, David.
That was a great chat with Dr. Heus, David. I loved let's feel like badasses for the rest of our lives. Like, yes, please. It was just great energy, something we're definitely about.
The more badassery we can bring into all of our lives at whatever age, that sounds like a good thing to me.
Yeah, and that badassery comes down to how well we're able to move and what we're able to do. And she really talked a lot about specifically our fascia, which I feel like people maybe don't learn about fascia or know it's even a thing until they go to PT or they have some type of injury and they're getting into the nitty gritty of how our musculature and our body actually is structured. And she just knew so much about it. She was able to paint a really good picture, I think, for a lot of people who don't know about fascia.
I may be incorrect on this, but I believe she's been studying it for 50 years. And so her knowledge of fascia exceeds anyone that I've ever spoken to. And I've done her Rev 6 workouts. I've worked with her one on one. And I have to say that the effect of these simple moves, it's sort of what I described in the conversation. It's like your rubber bands are back. Like everything just feels super springy that you didn't even realize was sticky before.
I've had my own experience with doing myofascial release PT, which focuses a lot on your fascia specifically. So that's when I first learned about it. But I remember my PT at the time describing it almost like a stocking over your
Yeah.
muscle. And if that is tight, no matter how much stretching you do, that muscle isn't going to be able to move enough. So it really is kind of helping the fascia kind of relax. And then the range of movement you're able to get and how you feel is really incredible.
I think a lot of the sort of feeling that people have as they get older, the sort of stiffness, rigidity, lack of access to easy movement, I think a lot of this is because of the sticky fascia that builds up.
Yeah, and you forget, right? The body's in a system, it's all connected. So if someone's feeling tight in their shoulders, for example, that might be because their hips are tight or something
Yeah.
further down the line is tight. And really, like when you are working that fascia, even if it's in a particular spot, you might feel the effect in a total other different part of the body. So I think her
Yeah.
conversation was just a really good reminder that the body's all a system, it's all connected, and the body doesn't forget, right? If you have an injury, she's talking about injury and how the fascia kind of pertains to that. I'm sure you could speak to that too with your knee.
I,
Um,
s- I wish the body was as forgetful as my mind, but it's not. It remembers much better than I do.
all right, when we come back, we'll explore the recent stories in the wellness world that caught our eye.
Sounds good.
It's hot out there. And if you're like us, you're chasing sunlight, long hikes, and maybe even a splash in the ocean when you can. But all that fun comes with a hidden cost: hydration. That's where Element comes in. LMNT. It's not just about quenching thirst, it's about replacing the essential electrolytes your body actually needs. Now, I have to mention this: their special summer flavor, lemonade salt, sold out earlier than expected due to overwhelming demand. Element is considering bringing it back as a permanent flavor, but in the meantime, I recommend stocking up on orange salt, my personal favorite this summer. It's bright, citrusy, and it keeps me sharp whether I'm on a trail or at my desk. Hydration is one of those simple daily wins that stack up over time. So visit drinkelement.com/ageist and get yourself a free 8-serving sample pack with the purchase of any electrolyte drink mix. That's drinklmnt.com/ageist. Stay salty, stay strong.
All right, so this brings us to our wellness news this week. First up, we got health drinks. They continue to steal the show. We're talking like antioxidant rich green teas, collagen elixirs. Seems the hydration is becoming more popular with consumers versus healthy food. Our second one, we have wellness weddings. So wellness is following us all the way to the altar here. Couples are saying I do at wellness retreat centers where ceremonies are blending together mindfulness with lush nature backdrops, which sounds absolutely lovely. And finally, we have a wellness market forecast that really grabbed my attention when I read it. The global wellness economy is expected to surge from $6.87 trillion in 2025 to $11 trillion by 2034. So we're seeing major growth that is expected to trend.
Amazing. So this last one, I will say the majority of this, because these are big numbers, 6.8 trillion to 11 trillion or whatever that is, like 9 years. The vast majority of that is real estate. So these are real estate developments. These are hotels, wellness centers, everything you can think of. So there's an enormous amount of money piling into the wellness real estate sector. And I think that's why these numbers look so big.
Yeah, which kind of goes back to that second news topic of just weddings at wellness centers, and kind of these places that are trying to travel wellness are definitely, we've been seeing a spark in that. And all these integrative services, and then like tack on all the healthy meal deliveries, personalized preventative care.
The reason these weddings are happening in these places is because the couple or one member of the couple has established a relationship with one of these places in some way and felt really good there. There's a certain sort of tribal aspect to these also. So people go back to the same place. You hear this with, some of the more well-known ones, Canyon Ranch, Six Senses, places like this. People are multi-year return guests. And so it makes complete sense that if you're going to get married, well, let's go to this place that we both love, that we had a great time, and all of our guests can be served all this wellness yumminess that we've experienced. It's sort of the ultimate destination wedding, I would say.
Exactly. Who wouldn't want that? And this kind of gets into, right, our first item that we touched on, but the last one we're talking about is this kind of shift in focus to healthy drinks versus healthy food. Do you have any insight as to why this might be popping off in the trends?
There are a couple things to think about here. I'm not so big on the whole drink section in the supermarket. It just increases plastic waste, and the cans and unless it's in a glass bottle, it's going to be, you're getting the plastic from whatever it's in. You're going to be drinking that. I like the intention that's happening here. People are paying more attention to their hydration, to the various things that they take into their body. I think this is great. Personal responsibility of your health. All in favor of this. We do need to be careful about what's also in these drinks, like the mocktail. Okay, great. How much sugar's in there? What are we really looking at here? I understand where it's going. I think a little discernment there. I drink green tea. I drink coffee. I drink a lot of fluids. I mean, one of the drinks that I learned a lot about a couple of years ago, which I thought was fascinating, was this idea of electrolytes and sodium in particular, which, I'd leave these workouts or I'd leave the sauna, I just wouldn't feel very good. I mean, what I do is I have like a packet of element salt and I just put it in my water bottle, and that works really well.
Yeah, I feel like because of companies like Element and the spotlight on hydration, people are starting to realize that something as simple as just staying hydrated has all of these big benefits that you can actually feel. So this
Yeah.
hydration plus actually hydrating properly with electrolytes, that it might also be fueling this kind of focus. The health and wellness stuff, all very exciting, right? Elsewhere in the ages world, don't miss this week's profile on Elizabeth Sobel. Plus, we've got a new recipe. Speaking of hydration and drinks, a banana date milkshake, something nice and sweet that'll hit that spot between indulgent and nourishing.
That's it for this week. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the Aegis newsletter, Best in Class. We've been doing this for 10 years. Comes to your email box every Thursday and now Sunday, twice a week. Woohoo, twice the love. Go to aegis.com/newsletter. We'd love to have you with us.
Thanks for joining us. Stay strong, stay vibrant, and we'll see you all next week.